Hello everyone, welcome back to the Global Conflict News channel. Please subscribe my channel. The story begins with an atmosphere that seems almost cinematic in scale, a moment where the entire region is holding its breath, waiting to see how a series of sudden moves might alter the balance of power not only in the Middle East but across the globe. Reports begin to surface that Chinese forces, described by some outlets as death squadrons, have touched down in Iran in a coordinated arrival that is both symbolic and deeply practical. The purpose is not ceremonial, it is tactical. Among the aircraft and military transport vehicles that arrive in Iranian airfields are units carrying missile systems that have never been tested in real combat. These weapons, engineered in China's massive defense industrial complex, are said to have one clear aim: the heart of Israel. The story is framed with urgency, not only because of the military implications but also because of the unpredictable consequences of deploying untested weapons in one of the most volatile regions of the world. The exterior of the situation is what first captures the world's attention. Chinese aircraft painted in subdued military gray land under tight security, met by Iranian Revolutionary Guard units who escort the equipment through carefully planned routes. The presence of Chinese personnel is noted by satellite imagery and intelligence agencies who immediately begin to analyze every detail, from the types of uniforms worn by the squads to the exact models of transport vehicles rolling down Iranian tarmacs. The exterior impression is meant to project confidence and alliance, a visible demonstration that Beijing and Tehran are willing to escalate their cooperation from economic agreements into direct military collaboration. The missile launchers, draped in tarps but unmistakable in silhouette, are transported under the cover of night to fortified bases in central Iran. Analysts pore over every leaked image, comparing dimensions of missile tubes to known Chinese designs like the DF series and newer prototypes whose specifications remain largely classified. Inside the operation, the interior remains tightly controlled, and this is where secrecy takes precedence over spectacle. Reports suggest that Chinese specialists are working alongside Iranian crews, training them on system interfaces and missile preparation procedures. The interior aspect is short but crucial, because it highlights how integration is being handled. Communication equipment is recalibrated, electronic warfare suites are checked, and missile loading drills are performed under strict supervision. Unlike previous transfers where Iran received Russian or North Korean assistance, this time the interior design of the command structure reflects Chinese philosophy, an emphasis on centralized digital control linked with redundancy systems to prevent jamming. Yet the interior work remains hidden from the public eye, only whispered about in intelligence briefings or caught in fragments of intercepted transmissions. The brevity of this interior story is a reminder that much of the real substance of military cooperation happens away from cameras, buried within secure bunkers and encrypted networks. When analysts move toward performance, the debate becomes heated. These missiles are labeled untested, which means they have not yet been proven in real battlefield conditions. Performance claims are based on laboratory simulations, range trials conducted deep in Chinese desert test facilities, and highly orchestrated propaganda films. Official figures claim that these weapons can strike with precision at ranges stretching across the Middle East, easily reaching Israel's central cities, military installations, and critical infrastructure. Performance is further advertised as including hypersonic glide capabilities, advanced decoys to defeat missile defense shields, and multi-stage propulsion systems capable of altering trajectory mid-flight. However, skeptics point out that no weapon system is truly reliable until it has faced the chaos of combat. Missiles can fail to launch, veer off course, or be intercepted. Israel's Iron Dome, David's Sling, and Arrow systems are specifically engineered to confront threats like these, and while not perfect, they drastically reduce the effectiveness of incoming salvos. The performance debate, therefore, is less about pure engineering and more about psychological impact. Even if only a fraction of these missiles were to succeed, the fear they create is enough to alter decision-making at the highest levels. Safety features might sound like a contradiction when describing missiles designed for war, but in the world of advanced weaponry, safety is critical not only for operators but for strategic stability. Chinese engineers emphasize that their missile systems include automated fail-safes that prevent accidental launches, encrypted command channels to avoid hijacking, and self-destruct protocols if a missile goes off course in unintended directions. For Iranian crews, this represents a significant upgrade from older systems that were prone to malfunction or misfire. Yet the irony is stark. Safety in this sense is not about protecting civilians, but about ensuring that the weapon functions as intended when the order is given. Analysts worry that untested systems might contain hidden flaws, raising the possibility of catastrophic accidents on Iranian soil that could ignite political backlash. Safety, therefore, becomes a contested term. It is meant to reassure the operators and the suppliers, but for neighboring states like Israel, Saudi Arabia, and even European nations monitoring from afar, the presence of these weapons feels anything but safe. Unique selling points are the heart of this narrative, because they define why Iran would welcome these systems and why China would risk international outrage to supply them. The missiles are promoted as cost-effective alternatives to Russia's increasingly expensive and overstretched arsenal. They are said to be capable of bypassing existing radar arrays, using stealth coatings and irregular flight patterns to confuse interception systems. Some reports claim they can carry multiple warheads, whether conventional, chemical, or potentially nuclear if Iran were ever to cross that threshold. The uniqueness lies not just in their design but in the strategic partnership itself. For China, this move signals that it is ready to project power into the Middle East, challenging American dominance and sending a warning that Beijing's influence extends far beyond trade routes and economic initiatives. For Iran, the selling point is leverage. By acquiring Chinese technology, Tehran gains a new bargaining chip against Israel, the United States, and its regional rivals. The untested nature of the missiles paradoxically becomes a selling point in itself, because no one knows exactly what these weapons can do. Deterrence is amplified by uncertainty. Price is another dimension often overlooked in military narratives but crucial for understanding how deals are made. While no official figures are released, estimates suggest that Iran secured these weapons at a discounted rate compared to global market prices, leveraging oil exports, strategic cooperation, and promises of access to regional bases. For China, the price is measured less in dollars and more in influence. By supplying Iran with advanced missiles, Beijing purchases a stronger foothold in the Middle East without deploying large standing forces. The cost also ties into sanctions evasion, as Iran offers China long-term energy contracts and trade channels that circumvent Western restrictions. For Iran, the price is steep not only financially but diplomatically. Accepting Chinese military aid risks deeper isolation from Europe and potentially escalates tensions with Washington. Yet Tehran appears willing to pay that price because the perceived value outweighs the risks. In a world where military power dictates survival, the transaction is framed as essential insurance for the future. The conclusion of this unfolding story is one of tension, uncertainty, and profound danger. On one side, Iran celebrates its strengthened alliance with China, believing that new missile systems will deter Israel and project Iranian power further across the region. On the other side, Israel prepares countermeasures, mobilizing its intelligence networks, upgrading its defense shields, and warning that any direct threat will be met with overwhelming retaliation. The United States, already stretched between global commitments, watches closely but is wary of direct escalation with China through the Iranian theater. For China, the conclusion is both a gamble and a declaration. It has chosen to place untested weapons into one of the world's most volatile conflicts, betting that the uncertainty itself will be enough to shift the balance of power without needing to prove the missiles in combat. Yet history has shown that weapons once deployed rarely remain dormant. The world now waits to see if these systems will ever be fired, and if so, whether they will deliver the shockwaves their designers promised or collapse under the weight of untested ambition. The conclusion is not an endpoint but a turning point, a moment where the trajectory of conflict in the Middle East might be irreversibly altered by decisions made in Beijing and Tehran. This is not just a regional story, it is a global story. It intertwines the ambitions of China, the survival instincts of Iran, the defensive preparations of Israel, and the watchful calculations of the United States and its allies. It is a story that reminds us how weapons are not merely machines of war, but instruments of strategy, diplomacy, and psychological dominance. The death squadrons that landed in Iran are more than military units, they are symbols of a shifting order in which new alliances and untested technologies threaten to redraw the boundaries of conflict. The heart of Israel may never actually be struck by these missiles, but the very threat forces leaders, generals, and citizens to live under the shadow of what could come next. That shadow is the real weapon, and it is one that grows darker with each passing day.